Coming up on Arirang News. Severe heat waves have been gripping South Korea for weeks. We delve into the reasons behind the extreme weather and the long-term measures the country needs to take. More than 100,000 jobs were added on year in July for the first time in 3 months, but mainly driven by people aged 60 or above. Job additions in the construction sector sharply fell due to an industry slowdown. With Ukraine's surprise incursion into Russia's Kursk region entering the second week, neighboring Belgorod declared a state of emergency on Wednesday. Thank you for joining Arirang News. I'm Kim Bo-kyung. We start with an extreme heat wave that has been baking the country for weeks. So far, it has led to thousands of heat-related illnesses. Choi Soo-yeon covers the causes of the heat wave and what to do to stay safe.
South Korea is unbearably hot even at night. Tropical nights in Seoul, where temperatures remain above 25 degrees Celsius, have continued for 24 days since July 21st, marking the second longest stretch in history, just behind the 26 days recorded in 2018. So far, over 2,400 people have reported heat-related illnesses such as dizziness, fever, vomiting, muscle cramps, and severe headaches. 21 people have died. The Korea Meteorological Administration says a strong high-pressure system is covering the Korean peninsula.
In the mid-upper levels of the atmosphere above Korea, both the hot and humid North Pacific high-pressure system and the hot and dry Tibetan high-pressure system are firmly established. During the day, temperatures rise further due to sunlight, leading to the heat wave.
So far, the average day high for Seoul this August has been 33.7 degrees Celsius, with temperatures peaking on Tuesday, August 13th, when they reached 36.4 degrees. Experts say climate change and the geographical characteristics of the Korean peninsula are the main factors behind this.
The ongoing heat wave is due to changing climate patterns. While similar heat waves have occurred in the past, the combination of heat, humidity, and rainfall during the summer is partly due to the geographical characteristics of the country.
He also emphasized that urban residents are advised not to excessively use air conditioning and should use parasols outdoors and drink water frequently to lower the risk of the heat-related illnesses. In rural areas, especially for the elderly, it's important to avoid working outdoors during the daytime as the extreme heat can be life-threatening. Professor Moon predicts that summers will become hotter and more humid each year. He also said long-term measures are necessary to deal with urban heat, including ventilation and airflow systems between buildings. He also suggested creating green cities by planting vines on building exteriors and establishing rooftop gardens.
We need to create more urban forests, plant more trees in living areas, grow vines on building walls, and establish green rooftops. These efforts can reduce the urban heat island effect and absorb carbon dioxide.
The KMA expects this summer heat wave to continue until around August 23rd. Choi Soo-yeon, Arirang News.
It's not just heat waves that have been gripping the country. The number of COVID-19 cases has gone up sharply due to a summer resurgence of the virus, especially among children. Our Yoon looks into why it's happening and ways to avoid it.
There's a notable summer spread of COVID-19 as people return from vacation. Enough time has passed since the height of the pandemic, and people are less focused on vaccinations and maintaining adequate antibody levels.
I think namely, people becoming less worried about how COVID could affect their lives, keeping less of the, sanitary measures and, to protect themselves and also protect others.
The professor noted that antibodies from past vaccinations have likely waned by now, contributing to the recent surge. However, the alert level being downgraded and the removal of most preventive measures have left a gap in guidelines when it comes to confirmed cases. This has resulted in symptomatic individuals avoiding testing and those who test positive continuing their daily activities, including going to work. The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency predicts that COVID-19 cases will likely peak in late August. This is because over the past 4 weeks, hospitalizations have nearly doubled each week, resulting in over 800 cases in the first week of August. Concerns are rising, with most schools in South Korea scheduled to start their second semester from mid-August to early September, while the number of child patient cases has also surged nearly 2.8 times in the past 2 weeks. This is according to the Korea Pediatric Hospital Association on Wednesday, reporting that the number of pediatric COVID-19 cases at 42 member hospitals surged from around 300 to over 1,000 between late July and early August.
So when we go into public spaces where a lot of the people are, being together, unknowingly and without recognizing myself actually carrying the disease, I could spread the virus to another person who could be affected in a life and death manner. So let's just remember that.
The weather is hot and humid, but staying in air-conditioned spaces can increase virus transmission. The professor advises avoiding crowded, enclosed places, and if that's not possible, keeping windows open for ventilation, even if using an air conditioner. Also, wearing a mask when experiencing respiratory symptoms can help prevent the spread of the disease. Yoon, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol's reshuffle of his foreign affairs and defense officials marks his strongest ever lineup of top security aides amid various geopolitical crises in the world. That's according to a presidential official speaking with reporters on Wednesday. Following Yoon's appointment of retired three-star Army generals Shin Won-sik as National Security Advisor and Kim Yong-hyun as Defense Minister, his office has explained that the unexpected reshuffle was due to increasingly complex issues around the world, which requires a strong focus on security matters. Before Kim is approved by Parliament for the ministerial position, Shin will continue acting as Defense Minister while taking on his new position as National Security Advisor. Chang Ho-jin, being from a diplomatic background, began his new role on Wednesday as Special Advisor to the President for Foreign Affairs and National Security, with his office to be set up soon within the Yongsan presidential grounds. His post was newly created to address crises in the Middle East and Europe, the U.S. presidential election, and cooperation between Russia and North Korea. Meanwhile, President Yoon has pledged to build a solid foundation for future generations to prosper based on the spirit and legacy of South Korea's independence activists. This came as the president hosted a luncheon for more than 100 descendants of the country's freedom fighters on Wednesday, a day before August 15th, which marks the day South Korea gained liberation from Japan's colonization 79 years ago. Yoon emphasized the sacrifices and dedication of the independence activists who helped bring freedom, and said his government will devote all efforts to building freedom, peace, and prosperity. Shifting gears a bit, July's employment expanded well over 100,000 on year, but figures in the construction sector sharply fell. Lee Soo-jin has the details.
South Korea saw job figures increase on year by more than 100,000 for the first time in 3 months in July. Data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday shows that there were 28.8 million people in employment last month, up 172,000 from the previous year. This comes after the on-year job growth was below 100,000 for both May and June. The rate of employment for people aged 50 and above rose by 0.1 percentage points on year to 63.3%, which is the highest figure for any month of July on record. And July's unemployment rate stood at 2.5%, 0.2 percentage points lower compared to the same month last year. But the rise in the job market was mainly driven by those aged 60 and above, with 278,000 more people in that age group in jobs in July compared to last year. On the other hand, for those between 15 and 29 years old, employment fell by 149,000 on year. And despite the overall growth in terms of job sectors, employment figures in the construction sector fell by a whopping 81,000. This marks the largest on-year drop for the month of July since 2013.
There has been a downward trend for about 3 months, and the decline has widened. The extreme heat and heavy rain, as well as a greater decline in specialized construction contracts, have all contributed to the overall decline in the construction sector.
And employment in the manufacturing sector, which has been seeing an upward trend, also fell by 11,000 in July, with the largest drop seen in those aged 40 and below. During a job task force meeting on Wednesday, the first vice finance minister acknowledged that while overall employment figures were positive, pan-governmental efforts are needed to address the sluggish employment figures in sectors such as construction, as well as among young people. He announced that measures including livelihood assistance and job training will be strengthened, and that pilot programs for youth employment that include connecting college students to alumni will be carried out starting this month. 이수진, Arirang News.
South Korea's fiscal deficit in the first half of the year is already larger than the deficit forecast the government had made for the whole year. Data from the Finance Ministry released on Wednesday showed that the so-called managed fiscal balance, which excludes social security funds like the national pension, was more than 103 trillion won, or around $76 billion into the red for the January to June period. The deficit has already surpassed the forecast of $67 billion set by the government for the whole year. The ministry attributed this to a drop in tax revenue driven by a fall in corporation taxes. On the international front, Russia's border region of Belgorod declared an emergency, citing Ukrainian attacks. Kyiv, meanwhile, says it has taken control of parts of Russian territory in Kursk as Moscow hits back. Cha Young has the latest.
The governor of Russia's border region of Belgorod, Vyacheslav Gladkov, declared a state of emergency on Wednesday, saying Ukrainian shelling is making the situation extremely difficult and tense by destroying homes and killing civilians. The declaration came after Belgorod began evacuations on Monday as a result of Ukrainian advances following Kyiv's surprise incursion into the neighboring Kursk region last week. According to Reuters, regional authorities are now appealing to the Russian government to declare a federal emergency. Kyiv says it has captured 74 villages in the Kursk region and has vowed to stop its offensives in Russia if Moscow agrees to a fair peace deal. Ukraine continued to push ahead with its offensive in Russia's Kursk region for the 8th day on Tuesday. A top Ukrainian commander said that its forces were able to advance 3 kilometers in 1 day, taking control of an additional 40 square kilometers of Russian territory. AFP News reported that Ukraine is in control of at least 800 square kilometers of mainland of Russia after analyzing resources from Institute of the Study of War. However, Moscow says it's in the process of pushing back the Ukrainian military. The Russian Defense Ministry says Ukraine has already lost up to 420 troops in the past 24 hours, and over 2,000 soldiers have been killed since the incursions began last Tuesday. While the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry called on Russia to agree to restore peace in the 2.5-year-long war, Russian President Vladimir Putin a day earlier said no negotiations could happen with those that attack civilians and civilian infrastructure, slamming the 8-day-long incursion. Cha Young, Arirang News.
Turning to the Middle East, where tensions remain high. U.S. President Joe Biden says a peace deal between Israel and Hamas may serve to offset a planned assault by Iran against Israel. In the meantime, Hamas fired more rockets targeting Tel Aviv. Peunji with the latest.
Hamas has said it fired 2 rockets targeting Israel's Tel Aviv, but the Israeli military said one fell in the sea off the central city, while the other did not cross into the country's territory. Local media outlets said explosions were heard in the city on Tuesday local time, but no casualties were reported. Amid escalating tensions in the region, U.S. President Joe Biden has said Iran could hold off on a retaliatory strike on Israel if a ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel is reached.
We'll see what Iran does and we'll see what happens if there's any attack. But I'm not giving up.
His remarks come after Iran vowed a severe response against Israel over the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed in Tehran after attending the Iranian president's inauguration. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations also called on members of the Security Council to help finalize and implement a ceasefire agreement for Gaza.
The United States' overall goal remains to turn the temperature down in the region, deter and defend against any future attacks, and avoid regional conflict. That starts with finalizing a deal for an immediate ceasefire with hostage release in Gaza.
While a ceasefire deal still remains uncertain, the Palestinian leader has reportedly said Iran could soon decide whether or not to retaliate against Israel. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who's currently visiting Moscow, told Russia's TASS news agency on Tuesday local time that the decision could be made in the next few days, or even the next few hours. While adding that Palestinians are against war, he noted the U.S. is actively involved in ceasefire negotiations, although it's hard to foresee what will happen. 배은지, Arirang News.
Thailand's prime minister was dismissed on Wednesday after the country's constitutional court ruled that he had violated rules of ethics. Seta Thavisin was removed from office for appointing a minister who had served time in jail. Former lawyer Pititwibin was briefly imprisoned for contempt of court in 2008 over an alleged attempt to bribe court staff, although the bribery allegation was never proven. With Seta's departure less than a year into his term, the Thai parliament now needs to choose a new prime minister. This adds to the ongoing uncertainty in Thailand, which has experienced many coups and court rulings over the past 20 years, leading to the downfall of several political parties. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will not be running for re-election as the president of his ruling Liberal Democratic Party in September. Kishida announced Wednesday that he is dropping out of the upcoming presidential race and will move on to supporting the election instead. The announcement comes amid mounting public discontent over Kishida's handling of a corruption scandal surrounding his party's unreported political funds. Kishida said that as the head of the party, he takes full responsibility for the serious situation. His 3-year term ends next month, and Japan will have a new prime minister after September's LDP election. In other news, Google has rolled out its new smartphones featuring an AI voice assistant earlier than usual as the AI race heats up. Yoon tells us more.
On Tuesday, at a product launch event at Alphabet's Bayview campus in California, Google unveiled new artificial intelligence features that are coming to Android devices. Its AI voice assistant, Gemini Live, has been completely rebuilt to provide a better assistant experience for users. With 10 new voices to choose from that serve to be more natural, conversational, and intuitive, Gemini can follow the user's train of thought and understand user intent. Google's Senior Vice President of Devices and Services, Rick Osterloh, said that Google was now bringing to reality the promise of AI.
The new Gemini assistant can go beyond understanding your words to understanding your intent, so you can communicate more naturally. It can synthesize large amounts of information in seconds and tackle complex tasks. It can draft messages for you, brainstorm with you, and give you ideas on how you can improve your work.
An analyst from global market intelligence firm, the International Data Corporation, said that Google nailed the two things that consumers are looking for AI to do, which is organization and content creation. The AI-powered technology will be available on its latest Pixel 9 series smartphones, which start at $799 US, $100 more than the Pixel 8. Holding less than 1% market share in global smartphone shipments, Google doesn't make a lot of money from its hardware business. But its latest feature could help drive revenue through its Gemini AI subscription program, which Android users can access for a monthly fee of $19.99. While Google normally announces its new lineup in the fall, pundits say the tech giant released its latest Pixel 9 lineup earlier than expected, with Apple's iPhone 16 scheduled for release next month. Google also announced new versions of its smartwatch, the Pixel Watch 3 and Pixel Buds Pro 2 wireless earbuds on Tuesday. Yoon, Arirang News.
On the cultural front, last month, a group of senior singers from Korea proved that age is just a number at the World Choir Games, one of the most prestigious choir competitions in the world. Yesterday, they reunited for their first practice since winning the highest honor at the Games. Our culture correspondent Song Yujin met with them.
The words gray and youth might not typically go together, but the Gray Youth Choir of Korea goes against those expectations. The choir of 55 members with an average age of 68 ranges from people in their 50s to late 80s. Among them are Korea's first harpist, a former news anchor, and even a 3-star general, all starting a new chapter of life with the choir. Some might remember the choir from the hit Korean reality show Qualifications of Men, where its members were chosen through a nationwide audition as part of the show's choir project back in 2011. This year, the Gray Youth Choir won the top award in the mixed senior choir category of the open competition at the World Choir Games, often called the Choir Olympics.
When we first started, we had one clear goal: to become the best senior choir in the world. We wanted to show not just the power of K-culture, but the strength of K-seniors. It took us 13 years to prepare for that 13-minute performance on the World Choir Games stage, but our patience paid off.
This victory didn't happen overnight. It's the result of more than a decade of hard work with performances at home and abroad, including the United Nations headquarters, Carnegie Hall, and Australia's International Choir Festival, gov't. But their journey wasn't always smooth.
In the beginning, we trained for 3 months and entered our first choir competition, and that's how it all started. Back then, we were just a group of grandmas and grandpas, clueless about choir music, but determined to learn.
They overcame such hardships through the dedication of the members and their conductor. Remarkably, the choir practices and rehearses just once a week for 3 hours every Tuesday afternoon.
Our practice sessions have a 95% attendance rate, and if you miss 12 sessions a year, you're out of the choir. Our greatest strength is the dedication of our members.
Rehearsal is about coming together to harmonize, so individual practice is crucial. My focus has always been on motivating each person to practice at home, so that our limited rehearsal time is as effective as possible.
The Gray Youth Choir's journey is far from over. They're planning a tour of 16 countries that participated in the Korean War and will continue singing with all their heart and passion towards an ultimate goal.
Our dream is to perform at Pyongyang Grand Theatre, uniting North and South Korea in song. It may seem like a distant hope now, but we believe that one day our choir will be part of history, marking the beginning of peace and unification on the Korean peninsula.
The Gray Youth Choir's journey is a story of vision, dedication, and the belief that age is no barrier to greatness.
When people hear us sing, they often ask, how can these seniors with an average age of 70 sing like a choir of 30-year-olds? Our message is simple: you too can remain young at heart.
True to their motto, active senior, as always, these active seniors and singers will continue to inspire the world, proving that anyone at any age can make their dreams come true. Song Yujin, Arirang News.
Yesterday, the hottest heat of this summer appeared in Seoul. However, it couldn't cool down even overnight. As the tropical nights continued for 24 days in a row, it became the country's second longest streak of tropical nights ever. The problem is that the heat is expected to continue day and night next week. Please take care. Tomorrow there will be showers in northeastern Gyeonggi-do province, inland areas of Gangwon-do province, and southern parts of Chungcheong-do provinces. The Seoul metropolitan area and western parts of Gangwon-do province will have around 30 millimeters per hour by today, and the same in Jeollanam-do province by tomorrow. Tomorrow, most areas will start at least 24 degrees. Highs will move up to 34 in Seoul, Chuncheon, Daejeon, and Gwangju. Showers will often fall throughout the country with tropical nights and heat waves continuing. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for today. Thank you for watching. For those in Korea, Thursday is National Liberation Day, and so Arirang News will be back at noon tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.